Bada bing, bada bing. You know, all this session, especially towards the end of the 2017 legislative session here in Hawaii, we expected everybody would get together and come up with some sort of a deal to keep going forward and figure out what we're going to do about this rail thing. Well, as you know, it got thrown right back in our lap. Is there going to be a special session? I don't know. Should there be? I don't know. Bada bing, bada bing. But how can you have the number one expenditure not covered? See, that's the part that I just don't get. How can you have, how can you say, well, okay, we're done. We're done working. You know, we finished, the session is over, so everybody go to what their other gig is. As you know, our legislators are, quote, some part-time. And you think, how in the world can these people be going out to play when the number one public works project that we've ever seen in our state for sure, ever, is not done? How do you, going back and explain to your constituents, whether you're a city councilman or whether you're a state senator, a state rep, how do you go back and say, well, we're sorry, we blew the number one deal. We just didn't get it done. Sorry about that. Maybe next time. Andria Tupola is here. We talk about it as though it's Minority Monday. And it's, hey, wait a minute. We're not Pow Monday. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm well, except that my little bridge thing just came out of my mouth, so I sound like kind of, you're going to have to do most of the talking. Anyway, I know there are a lot of people that really just can't understand this. What sort of a pushback have you had? And or do you, are we going to have a special session? I don't think anybody knows yet.
We were told that it could possibly be at the end of June, but that there's been no deals that have been made that is going to be the date.
Would one of the reasons be, because just like everybody else, our legislators, when they're done, if they're going to travel, it's usually in the summer.
No. I mean, if there is a special session, they give us heads up. And so as the caucus leader, I have to gather the dates when my caucus is going to be out of town. You know, the majority leader has to gather the dates when his caucus is going to be out of town. So, no, they call us in whenever. I mean, if it's time, then everyone gets the call like, okay, it's going to be in 3 weeks.
Have they ever done a vote by proxy or a absentee somebody, or do you have to actually be there to vote on it?
No, you have to be there. Yeah, we did one last year, I think it was, when we had like a bill that was not decided regarding the Maui Memorial privatization.
I remember that. Yeah.
So.
Okay, so in other words, we're not to that point yet.
No, because
no DocuSign. You got to come there.
You would have to be there in person, and it would definitely have to be where the Senate and the House have agreed to the bill.
Okay, before we get started, let's talk about what we were talking about when we left, and that was the Republican Party was going to get together on the island of Kauai and come up with some new leadership. You had voiced your desire to be looked at as the chair. It went to somebody else. Have you had a chance to talk to Shirlene? And if so, what did you guys talk about?
So we just exchanged words there at the conference. We kind of said congratulations to everybody who was there and, good job. So we haven't talked as of yet. I know she sent out one email saying that they're trying to gather and, figure out their plans.
But you know what? I must tell you that the way that other elections have been held and other transitions have happened hadn't been so good. I think that you guys, and you particularly, nobody wants to say, well, the king is dead, long live the king. But it looks like the wind of change in the local GOP. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to be for the better or not, but we can't keep going status quo, right? Isn't that why you wanted to make some changes?
Yes. And, I think that, long story short, whether or not there was the outcome that we had intended, what happened was that there was a lot of engagement. So whenever you have elections where there's no competition, no other person, not only do you not have a choice, but nobody's interested. And
I thought, by the way, it was really interesting, the number of people that actually went there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big gang.
That was a big number for the Hawaii Republican Party. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what we want, is we want more people to engage, and we want people to have the option to see what they would like going forward.
I heard from a longtime Republican supporter the other day. I think that everybody's looked in the mirror and said, do you really think, Hawaii, that we're good, that we're going forward in the right direction, or do we need to really bolster up, even to give Democrats? There are a lot of Democrats that wish there were a few more Republicans because they don't want to be blamed for something. They want to say, well, look, we all agreed.
Yep. Everybody says that. Everybody says we need a two-party system so badly in Hawaii. We need the Republican Party to rise up. And I think that, one of the things I had a conversation with a nonprofit was, has there ever been polling done to say why people vote the way they do?
Yeah.
So why are people voting Democrat? Because some people say, oh, the Republican Party doesn't put out, enough quality candidates. Other people say, oh, it's because they're not speaking relevantly to the issues that matter most in Hawaii. But at the end of the day, have we polled and found out the true reason why the Republican Party has not been able to gain more seats?
Yeah, and that's a great response. And I also think there's something else. I think that we are in Hawaii because of the ohana that we have and the respect that we have for our elders. Many, many people grew up during the union days of the Democrat Party when it was completely controlled by the unions. And that's what they grew up expecting. Their parents were Democrats. They became Democrats. Their kids are Democrats. And it really takes, I know there's some very interesting family ideological differences at some little family gatherings because we don't all agree. So, I mean, I think that maybe, I don't know if it's in other states, but nowhere have we seen such dominant control by one party for as many decades as we have here in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, lots of states have gone through different shifts. Colorado was predominantly Republican controlled, and recently when they had a huge shift and now the Democrats kind of came into control, they legalized marijuana. There's actually a book called The Blueprint that was written about how did the Democrats do it. There's a lot of states that have gone through this huge shift. In Arkansas, they had same thing, 4 out of 100 Republicans in the state house. And they had to flip that because that was Bill Clinton's state. He had been running for governor year after year. And so I think studying from each of the states that was able to shift this change, what did they do to make the change possible?
And I agree. And this one lady said, you know what it is the current administration has got to bear the burden of the world. So how goes Trump? So how goes the Republicans next time around. But there's many people on the Democrat side of things that are really looking at some of it and saying, a lot of this is petty. A lot of what's going on, this squabbling, is because there are some people in our nation's capital, Republican and Democrat, that don't realize the election's over. That, there's a new sheriff.
I would agree.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's sort of interesting because you've seen not too many people on the Democrat side of things trashing the president's trip to the Middle East. I think it's a historic thing, and nobody expected him to be as mellow as he's being mellow. He's being nice to all these people.
Yeah. They definitely got good reviews on that trip.
Okay, so that being said, the going forward, the biggest thing in politics is getting ready. I went to the GOP website just to look at it, and there's already a clock ticking showing when the election is. Is it a little early?
No, absolutely not. It is never too early to start making sure we have candidates, getting people prepared for the 2018 election. The 2 years flies by. Yeah.
Especially, time flies when you're having fun. Andria Tupola is in the House, and speaking about the House, we're going to talk about the House and the Senate. A report's come out from the minority party on the. I'm taking an eyeball looking at specific things in legislation, things like sanctuary states, some health issues, some self-sufficiency. We've got a lot to talk about. And if you'd like to join the conversation on any of these, you may at 296-KHNR. That's 296-5467.
That's 296-5467. Or email us at themikebuckshow@gmail.com. Now, back to Mike on 690 The Answer.
Okay, well, at the end of every session, like I said earlier before Andria Tupola from the House was here, you got to say, well, what were they there for? And they're obviously there for money and determining a budget and determining who's going to get what organizations are going to get supported by the government, what have to be, look at the private sector. And we expected that the number one concern of this budget was going to be what the state's attitude was going to be in playing backup to the city on the rail projects here on the island of Oahu. And right now, and I'm so glad that Andrea is here because we have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, but from what I understand, unless some decisions are made pretty soon, the available ongoing cash funds to operate this thing are going to run out before the end of the year.
So what the deal is that the city is saying that they do not have enough money to complete the project. So if you've looked at any of the bills we were looking at, it's due to sunset at 2027. And so if we extend it 2 more years, then it'll be 2029. If we extend it 10 more years, then it'll be 2037. So what they're saying is that the back end, they project that they will run out of money. So now by saying that they don't have enough money to complete the project, that's why the federal government, who had put up
Right.
$1.5 billion to help on subsidize on the federal side said,
They're looking for answers, right?
we will withdraw the money
Yeah.
if you don't have enough to complete this project. So as of right now, it's not like the rail's going to shut down this year or whatever.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that on the back end, they wouldn't have enough to complete it, and that's why they're looking for this, so that they can continue to get the federal funding that they supposedly
Okay,
need.
we do understand, or we think that sometimes some are saying, well, the state's holding the city ransom. That's ridiculous. I mean, I think that we have to make sure that people understand that automatically you can't assume that the city has done nothing wrong and they shouldn't be penalized. But when we talk about penalizing, we're talking about us. I mean, they're not two separate groups here, right? There's us and then there's us.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a city project that we would hope that the mayor would come up with something that would be agreeable, so that the state and the Senate would feel comfortable saying, yes, we can walk ahead with this. And the big problem was that in 2015, when they came to the legislature, they said, we will not come back.
Yeah,
They
based on the numbers they had available then, we don't need any more. That's all we need.
And this is why the state, the Senate, and the House leadership has decided we don't know if these guys will come back. Therefore, we need to make sure that they're held accountable. This is what everybody wanted. They wanted them to be held accountable. So now that's what's happening is that.
Okay. One thing I want to make abundantly clear is I don't feel that you've ever said, nor have I ever said, that this has got anything to do with politics. It's to do with numbers. I mean, seriously, it's a whole bunch of Democrats arguing with a whole bunch of Democrats in the final analysis, right? So nobody wants to put it blame. But the main thing most people seem to think is that the city doesn't want to shoulder the blame for this because all of a sudden then it would be very political. Because we said we were going to do something we couldn't end up doing, and there were deceptions, and then the state finally put their foot down and said no more money until we know what the real numbers are.
I would say it's a mix. I mean, I don't want to say that it's, extremely political, but people would say that there has been some posturing on both sides from the city and the state. However, it is at the end of the day a money question, whether or not they have crunched their numbers and come up with something that both sides feel comfortable with. I do think that at the end of the day, it has to be somebody that's going to be able to temper personalities, because we do talk about issues, but at the end of the day, you're working with people. So if we have somebody that is able to temper people, because people think differently, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone's stepping into the room thinking, okay, well, if I throw on this proposal, they'll take it. You have to consider the way people think, the way they process information, and the way they make their decisions.
I agree. And the other thing is that even if somebody said as a campaign, and I'm talking about Mayor Caldwell, I'm going to build it on time, on budget, and without raising real property taxes. I get it if that's not going to work. I mean, it wouldn't all be blamed on the one guy that ran a campaign saying he was going to do this. But we have to start telling each other the truth here. I mean, how much money is it really? And what's wrong with these numbers? How come we can't get a decent set of numbers out of this thing to go forward with?
Well, I think they have presented the numbers, and they're saying that this is what they needed because now they have a guy that has built rail, not just operated
not just operated.
So I think that isn't the question as much as how do you fund it? Do you fund it with complete state GE tax money, or do you fund it with partial city funding? So that's kind of where it's been coming back and forth is we've put up as much as we could on the state side. So now the question is, how do we fund it appropriately so that both sides are held accountable? That's where the conversation has mostly been for the last couple of weeks.
Okay, now we see some of the heart people disappearing. And these things happen from time to time anyway, right? People, they're going to be a non-paid commissioner of something, and something comes along that they're going to go do something else. Do you think we're going to see more of that, or some more of these guys going to have to leave?
Well, and that's the thing. Anybody listening who owns a business, you know why people stay and work for you. It's because of the way you manage them. It's because of the way you treat them. It's because you find the right people with the right skills, and you, one, give them their job description, and two, give them all the resources to complete their job. If somebody doesn't feel like, one, they know their job, and two, they have what they need to get it done, then they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of other reasons why people leave, but a management question is definitely different, and that should be considered because if lots of people are leaving, then it's poorly managed.
Yeah, and by the same token, I want to make sure that we circle the wagons, and this is not a rail show because I'm getting a lot of rail comments. We have to say, but one more, the final question was that you were given an inkling that there might be a special session, and we don't know when or if. But there must be people that are saying, well, we have to do something. I mean, can you reach out across the aisle and say to even the Democrat, hey, what's your gut feeling? I mean, are we going to come back? Are we going to buckle under? What does the state expect from the city if we do if the state does agree to extend this tax, what should the city be able to provide to the state with regards to assurances? They won't have to come back and ask for more.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's not just, the Senate president and the House Speaker, because both of them have to figure out whether or not the proposal they're going to put on the table will be favored by the House and the Senate. So the Senate president has to go back, talk to the senators. Is this something that we should actually be called into special session because we can agree on something? Then the Speaker of the House has to do the same thing. Hey, we're looking at this proposal. Is this something that we can all agree on? Because we're not going to get called into special session for a bill that everyone doesn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because it won't get decided.
No. So
but honestly, don't you think that if it doesn't get decided, if there is no special session, that January is going to be one heck of a month, because that's going to be when all the pressure is, because the reality about where's the money is going to become a glaring where's the money.
Maybe. I mean, I think really, I would be very interested to speak with the federal side myself, because honestly,
we're being told a lot of things, by the way.
We are. Yeah. And here we are in May, and they said, by April 30th, if we don't have assurance by the state of Hawaii, it's out. Then why are we still discussing this? Then maybe that wasn't the firm date. I mean, Director Chow, who is over the transportation for the federal government, is somebody that I'm personally reaching out to ask questions directly, because you never know.
Well, our two senators, Senators Schatz and Hirono, are guaranteeing that we're going to get that money. I don't know how anybody can do that, especially if there's a adversarial relationship going on with the delegation from Hawaii and the president of the country.
Is anything guaranteed in politics?
I don't think so, right?
No.
Yeah, it gets to be good. Okay, we'll take your calls. 296-KHNR is the number. I know that some of you want to make it a rail or non-rail talk, but there's a lot of other things, and I think that the legislature is to be both scolded and applauded on some of the things that they've done. There's been a bunch of stuff that should have made it that didn't, and that's kind of disappointing. And there's been some things that you may not know about, and we'll try to get to some of them as the morning goes on. I don't want to get narrow interests. I want to take a look at some of the big pictures. One of the things that was sort of interesting to me is it appears to some, Andria, that Hawaii is taking one more step closer to legalizing of marijuana in other than in the medical marijuana bill. There was some movement on that. What happened?
With the medical marijuana bill, there was like 4 or 5 of them that had been discussed together, and they decided at the last minute to kind of merge every great idea they had about medical marijuana. The one that did die was taxation of the product. And what the Department of Health had testified in numerous hearings was that they weren't willing to look at different modifications of the dispensaries because it's not even up.
Yeah.
So the dispensaries were set to start in January. Here we are in May. Not one dispensary is up. And I would like to share with those who are listening, on April 30th at Kapolei High School, we will be hosting a Marijuana Dispensary Town Hall.
Wait. You said April 30th?
May 30th.
May 30th. Okay.
Whoops. May 30th at Kapolei High School, 7 p.m. We're hosting a Marijuana Dispensary Town Hall. It's going to be an informational briefing. The reason why we're hosting this is because people have been asking, where are they going to be? Where did the licensees buy grow facilities? Where are they going to put the dispensaries? Well, we have the licensees that are coming. We have the Department of Health that's going to be explaining the rules, and the Marijuana Alliance that's going to be explaining their role in what they do here. Now, again, this is not a forum that is for or against it.
Yeah.
This is to disclose everything that's been happening. You can ask questions about the rules. You can ask questions about debilitating conditions and how you can add it onto the list or how you shouldn't add it onto the list. So,
are there people that are confused, though, and linking the two subjects together, recreational marijuana use and medical marijuana use? Because I don't think you'd find anybody that would argue not being able to have some medication available to somebody that needs it, that's prescribed it, that should have it.
I hear the question you're asking, but people are very concerned that the more
slippery slope, right?
The more we allow all of these different things into the state of Hawaii, are we getting closer to legalizing it? And so one of the bills that passed through this year, it did talk about allowing a small, what was the amount? A small quantity of medical marijuana to be transported.
Yeah, if you need to, right?
Intra-island.
Yeah, inter-island. Yeah.
See, the interesting part about that, though, is that flying over federal waters is illegal.
Yeah, illegal, right?
It's still illegal.
Yeah. Okay, but the thing that did pass was the industrial hemp bill.
Yes.
And nobody can argue that. If that's not something you smoke and get you silly, let's take advantage of it because we got a perfect place to grow it.
Well, and so one of our caucus members, Representative Thielen, she has been
very strong supporter.
Yes, she's been a strong supporter of this to become an industry that can actually produce more than just clothes and bags and
furniture,
and food and furniture. Is that it could be a crop that turns around what we lost in the sugar industry.
Hey, run it up the flagpole, see how many people salute it, right?
Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. Yep, except if you're a legislator, it's off to vacation. Nah, I'm kidding. So actually, some legislators, let's get that out right away. I do know that a lot of people, Andria Tupola, Rep Tupola, obviously is a teacher, and you're actually looking at your job as in the House more of a full-time job than a part-time gig.
Definitely there's always things to be done in the State House. And so I just came back from a conference in Utah. It was a legislative conference regarding tax reform. Mm-hmm. So it was very interesting, especially sitting on the Finance Committee, because you go through...
Got to look at sources, right?
Well, you got to figure out who can teach me more about economy, about economics, about tax reform, because we learn a little bit in the committee. Yeah. But for many people that sit on these different committees, this is not their specialty. Yeah. Not everybody on the Finance Committee went to school for economics.
Sure.
Not everybody is a CPA. So in each committee that you sit on, you really have to start applying yourself.
In the old days of the armed forces, a guy would go into the Army, get drafted, and they'd say, well, what are you? I'm an orthodontist. Good, motor pool. In other words, they put square peg round hole. But people have to understand, a lot of you in the legislature are not experts in a lot of things on committees you serve, but you need to, because you're voting, you're representing your constituents, right?
And that's the biggest gripe that people have is you guys are not experts on issues and you won't listen to us. You're making decisions that you don't understand.
Yeah, here come the lobbyists, here come the special interest groups, right?
Well, and that's where I feel
they'll give you the info.
I feel like as the minority leader, I definitely need to apply myself and try to find ways to learn more about this, because I'm not an expert. Mm-hmm. And so if I lead my caucus in such a way that I have to impart information about why we should make a decision on this bill, I better be coming with the right information that comes from accurate sources.
Yeah, great point. Okay, let's go to the phones. Those of you who want to speak with Rep. Tupola, you may. We don't want to dwell on any specific bill for the whole program, but we do know that there's some that are of concern to you. First, Glenn and Kahe joins us. This one I heard over the weekend by a couple of different people, something about car registration. Hey, Glenn, good morning.
Hi, good morning. The city budget department, budget committee passed the increase of motor vehicle registration. Did the legislature also pass one?
No. We discussed the fuel registration fee and weight tax all in one bill. Actually, that was the bill that I was tracking a lot, because that one is such a huge hitter, meaning that it's supposed to bring in all this money into the state because everyone has to pay it. But that is the bill that makes people so angry, because our registration is so high in the state of Hawaii. And look, where is the registration going? People ask me that all the time. What is it going to the roads? Because they don't look any better. Is it going to, the infrastructure? Because that looks like it's falling apart. So we did not pass the bill on the state side regarding vehicle weight tax and fuel tax.
Oh, that's good, because it would be a double whammy with the city and the state.
Yeah.
Man, the fees the city has been raising is unreal.
But, we have to get out of that mentality, right, Glenn? I mean, it's still us. It's like Andrea and I were discussing earlier. Okay, you got the city and the county, and then you got the state, but it's all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, thanks.
Okay, Glenn, thanks for your call. And obviously, here's our friend Don in Kaneohe, because he was bird dogging and watching a couple of things, not just at the state level, but at the city level. Hey, Don, good morning.
For some Representative, the rail has sucked everything out from all the services for transportation, which I deal with public transportation, bus and handy van. Mm-hmm. With the hikes and everything, they were trying to push on the handy van, which was deferred with the city council. It's impacting also for the people who use Medicaid transports for handy van. Mm. And we're having a meeting tomorrow. I sent you another reminder in the email for Citizens for Fairity, right? Mm-hmm. And we have it at the Capitol from 9:45 to 11:45 a.m., room 229. And we're going to have a Department of Transportation Service City and Wild Transit Services bus and handy van there to answer any questions or concerns that people may have. And I encourage everybody to come out if you want more information.
Yeah, that's a good point. It further highlights, doesn't it, Rep. Tupola, that the city and the state, we're still the same people. We need to speak. We need to get this together.
Definitely. Yeah. Don, who is the head of DTS right now? Because it was Form B.
Yeah, it's Wes Persaki.
Oh, I don't don't even.
Yeah.
He's a new one, and Deputy Director is John Nuuchi. He used to
Interesting.
work for Oahu Transit. He was a planner, and as well as the work for Heart also. So he knows bus and handy van on his part, but right now we're very concerned about the increases for next fiscal 2019 and beyond when the city reintroduces the upgrade up the fares for handy van. That's why.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that you guys are gathering and having a public meeting about it. I hope, is somebody going to be filming that so that at least we can get that on Olelo or get it
Yeah,
live?
we have a private producer, but she's trying to do her best to get on Olelo, but there's so many slots been taken, so she's doing her best to get it.
I would hope so because, for the people on the west side, they have concerns about the exact topic you're speaking of, but many people cannot attend during a daytime meeting.
Yeah, we're trying to get out, maybe work with you on doing some evening ones with Oahu Transit and ETS.
Yeah, because on the west side, we have a huge ridership out there for handy vans and for buses, so we could definitely use that on a nighttime and not during the day, sometime out in the west side.
Let's turn the tables on you for a minute, Don, because I have a very interesting comment from somebody that wants to know, has anybody ever done a survey to find out how many people are using the handy van for a personal mode of transportation and are costing the system both delays and breakdowns and overcrowdedness?
Well, I did mention that to former council member Brian Haramoto when he was on the chair of Transportation Council to do a survey for consumers to the concerns about the paratransit handy van. And he said, great idea, but nothing was done.
The concern for many was, and I'll ask Rep. Tupola about this too, that, you want to provide this service, but it's not a personal service that every citizen gets to go wherever they want, whenever they want, just because they are disabled.
Yeah, it's a shared right.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
So it's not like a taxi where you can just book and go where you want.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why a lot of people complain, I had to wait an hour and a half. And I'm thinking well, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, isn't it when you call that they come and pick you up? So it's not like a regular, where the bus comes and you have to wait at 10 o'clock. Is that true?
Yeah, basically what it is a scheduled program. So whatever they have left in their schedule and time slots is what you get. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't get the slot you want, but they're still vitally entitled.
Well, that was my point. How many times is that because a vehicle is full?
Well,
because somebody that wants to go down to Ala Moana and hang out with their friends every day can do that.
Yeah. Well, another thing is they have this scheduling system, Trapeze.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, that schedules everything for the rider. So it's like an airline. Somebody takes a seat or a spot that time.
Yeah.
And they want that time. Another person can't get, so you have to get a different time within 1 hour. Yeah.
Interesting.
And they're violating the Title III of the ADA. Long wait, long time on the vans and whatnot. So.
All right, my friend. Thanks very much for the input. And once again, when is that? What time is that meeting and where?
That will be at the State Capitol tomorrow, May 23rd, second floor, room 229, from 9:45 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. Can I give a phone number?
Absolutely.
For more information, call 808-291-0844.
Wait a minute. 808-291-0844.
0844.
Hey, Don, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
More coming up with me and Rep. Andria Tupola right after you find out what's happening in traffic.
Got a comment? Think you've got the answer? Call now. 296-KHNR. That's 296-5467. Here's more Mike Buck on 690 The Answer.
I'm just shaking up the bacon, just making bacon. So there were a number of bills that died, there are a number of bills that didn't. And the Republican Party has put out an interesting piece. And Andria Tupola, Rep. Tupola, sent it to me so I could take a look at it before we got together. And this can be looked at where?
This is a report that our research office put out.
Right.
But each legislator is coming up with a legislative
With
wrap-up.
their wrap-up.
But you can call my office, and I can give you a digest of bills that passed or didn't pass or highlight things, because it's really hard when the legislative session is going on to remember, hey, what happened with that one bill? Did it go? Did it not
so
go?
Many,
yeah, there's so many.
You actually came up with a pretty nice one of your own. I just
I definitely did my own legislative wrap-up that had to do more with, bills that people on the west side
in your area want to know. See, that's what I'm saying. What you bring to the party is your constituents. Now, what you bring to the party doesn't mean that you're necessarily qualified to be an expert in every committee that you're on, which shows me a lot of progression by you saying, you know what, I'm not real sure of this. I'm going to go learn some more.
Oh, yeah, and I want to learn from experts. I mean, I didn't go to school for so many years and get my PhD because I learned from any old source. I try to go to primary sources. If there's an economist that can sit me down and talk me through tax reform, I'm going to go learn from them. It was so eye-opening to be at this conference talking with other states that have really battled pensions and how they've created this huge amount of unfunded liability in our state. We have currently $12 billion of unfunded liability.
You know what? For somebody that doesn't understand that, try go look at how many bills there are in a billion. Go look at a van full of money and find out how much money that is.
That is so much.
Okay, one quick, even though I don't want to talk about rail, we'll talk about rail for just a brief moment with Ron. Hey, Ron, good morning.
Hey, hi, Mike. Andrea, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
And I'm a Republican. Oh, good morning. I'm a Republican voter. I voted for Trump. Now, I wanted to know, and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this. Did anyone, whether Republican or Democrat, did any of them bring a Honolulu rail to the attention of Trump? I mean, there was a skating rink in New York, and I know about it. It was dilapidated. The city, it was a debacle, and they gave it to Trump. He got it, according to Trump, The Art of the Deal. I read the book. He got it done under budget and ahead of schedule, and he brought all these skating stars when it reopened.
Yeah, I remember that story. That's a great story.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I've been following the progress of Trump since the mid-'70s. He put his tower on the same street I grew up on, only 5 blocks away. So I know a lot about Trump. He's a successful guy, and no matter what most of these people who trash him don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, let's cut to the chase, Ron.
Okay,
You know?
can you tell me, does he know about the Honolulu Rail at all?
You know, I don't know if he's aware of this project. My direct contact has been with Director Chow, who's in the transportation division of the federal government, because supposedly that's the department that's going to make or break the deal with the federal amount of money that's supposed to come our way. But
I might be able to help a little bit, Ron. I do know that the president was counting on his staff to give him information about all these monuments that they're looking at, including ours. And and there are many of them. There are a ton of these projects. And any government, not just Trump's government, but any government is looking to withhold or not give somebody something that doesn't do their end of the deal. Our delegation is telling us that we're okay, but I'm not sure we are.
Yeah,
you know, I would hope that our delegation did mention something. I mean, if they are trying to vie for this money, which, Mike just said, supposedly they said, oh, yeah, we're going to get the federal money, then I would hope that they would be having these kind of discussions.
And could I just say one more thing? I think Mazie Hirono and Brian Schatz, they should somehow find a way to deal with Trump. They don't have to be against him on everything the way they were for Obama on everything. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do that, Ron. Thanks so much for your call. It is true that there are some that are saying, hey, look, the election's kind of over, everybody. We have to deal with what we've got. And there are already people that are saying, well, Trump's going to get impeached. And that they said that about Clinton. Well, of course he did. So, but, isn't it just the fact that we need to get on with things? And by the way, those of you getting on with things, we just learned from our friends at Hawaii News Now, more than 2,700 customers are without power in the Waipahu area, which is not so good, is it?
No.
They need to. So wind up your little wind-up radio and don't lose our conversation. We only have a few minutes left. Let's make sure that we sort of get to the gist of the things that, like, for instance, in your area, you said you put out your state of the area for your constituents. Mm-hmm. What are some of the bills that did go for you and that didn't?
For our side, definitely some of the issues have been education, housing, and so there's a bill that I think it's actually under federal review right now that talked about homesteaders and whether or not their successors should have to be quarter Hawaiian or, if it could be less than that, because there's not as many full-blooded, half-blooded, 50% Hawaiians. So
as there used to be, that's right.
Well,
it's called intermarriage, right?
A lot of people would say that this whole deal with the quantum is actually set so that Hawaiians never own land. I mean, because if you think about it, how many people can continue to hold up the 50% quantum after so many generations of Hawaiians have now
intermarriage, yeah.
So that was one of the bills. It's HB451 that decrease the amount of quantum for successors from a quarter to 1/32. Another bill that
now, in many respects, let's say that you're the grandchild of somebody with Hawaiian Home Lands and you're living there. Tutu kindly passes away. Mm-hmm. Mom gets it. Mom's just at the level, but then mom's husband, your dad, is a non-Hawaiian. Now all of a sudden you're out.
Well, and that's where some people had brought up there's been disruptions because after that happens, then what are you just displaced?
Yeah.
No home, nowhere to go.
Now,
So-
they say that, you know what, the reason for that is there's this big backlog of people that have the right quantum, but nowhere to go.
yeah.
And I'm not sure that's true.
Well, and again, I'll reiterate that this bill is not about making the quantum less for people who actually get the homes. It's
Gotcha.
for successorship.
Successorship.
Meaning, like, if you want to keep it within your family. So somebody did qualify, they had the right quantum, they were, by Department of Hawaiian Home Lands verified to be on homestead.
Yeah.
What do you do then when your grandchildren, great-grandchildren don't have the right amount? So
Yeah, and, and that's a question it's actually just got kicked down the road, didn't it?
yeah,
For the time being.
It's been controversial, but I feel like there needs to be something said about, one, the list, how long it is, how many people have died while waiting on that list. And two, if this is going to be the set where, and again, that this is the bill that was proposed. This is what originally Kuhio and when the first Department of Hawaiian Homelands was made, this is what was suggested for the quantum percentage. And so they're taking it back to that, thinking that this will help to get some Hawaiians to be able to keep their ownership of their land and their house.
Okay, now I do know that one of the big questions in the industry, in the building industry, has been on renewable energy and the state's mandate to be off fossil fuels substantially by 2045. There was a bill, and 3 people have asked about this, that replaced the existing tax credit for solar and for wind and everything that failed. And are there some people, do you think, that are expecting that the government should pay you for being smart, or that you should just pay yourself? I'm not quite sure, because I'm a holder of a permit that we're just finishing up now on the reverse metering. PV. And one of the reasons you get it is because you can afford it because of the tax credits. Is there going to be some different form? Because even from what we understand, and this is somebody in the solar industry asking this, that the solar industry is walking on thin ice right now without additional tax credits. What do you think is going to happen?
If you're talking about the clean energy discussion, it's been a big discussion in Hawaii because they want us to go 100% clean energy, but
They've committed, right?
yeah, and
How can we do that?
the tough part about that is that there has been no parameters set around it. So the solar industry, they have all of these people out there trying to sell solar panels, and then Hawaiian Electric says, we don't have enough capacity inside our grid to hold that much energy. So what happens is during the day, all these panels generate energy. It goes straight to Hawaiian Electric,
Right.
and they say, okay, we can't hold this energy and then disperse it in the afternoon and the night when everyone needs it, right? So where do you actually hold it? Do we create a water container where in the day we decrease the water, and then in the night the energy is, because you have to store this energy somewhere,
Right.
And so
There was no technology for that, but now it's getting there. But it's still not up to the speed that it would need to be to convert to batteries.
Right, and that's where
storage.
people are saying, okay, well, if Hawaiian Electric can't hold the energy, then all you need to do is get a battery. So you get the energy from your solar panels in the day, you store it in your battery at night, and then you use that energy in the night.
So what people want is, and the solar installers want, is there to be a deeper credit on batteries.
Well, the batteries are very expensive.
Yeah.
And so
They won't be forever, right?
Right.
Like everything else will come down. But right now, Tesla and some of the others that lead that, they have to get a return on their investment, and they deserve it.
And I know that a lot of battery companies have been looking for a tax credit so that people will say, okay, I'll buy this knowing that I'll get a tax credit.
I get a tax credit. Yeah.
And so a lot of people will not put out the kind of money that they need to get that battery, even though it might mean that in the long run you're going to save more money, because it's hard to throw down 20 grand for a battery.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
However, when you take a look at rising electric costs, but see, the mandate is that we got to get off this fuel. But that means that instead of the homeowner being able to get solar, the power companies are going to get solar, and they're going to sell it to us.
Well, and that's where people see this rise in solar farms. In Waianae, we have them all over
They're
now.
everywhere. I've seen a couple of them.
Oh, my goodness,
Amazing.
they're huge.
Yeah.
Some of them take up the whole entire landscape of the mountain. And so people are saying, okay, so if these are all over Waianae, then do we get preferential rates for the Waianae residents? And so there is a justice group at the University of Hawaii that's actually looking into that, which is called, Green Energy Economic Justice, meaning if your community is faced with huge windmills, kahuku, wakiwa.
Maybe you go down to the beach now and you see windmills instead of seagulls.
Right. And so your community has these huge green energy companies that are supposed to be there to convert this energy into something that's more green. Then what does your community get from that?
But isn't it the same thing, the same argument that's going on in your neck of the woods for a long time over where's the next landfill going to be, or how long is this Waimanalo Gulch is going to keep operating.
Oh, it's so true. If you have entities like that in your community and you say, okay, so how is this benefiting our community?
Yeah.
You have a landfill in our community. Where's the money going? So way back when Mayor Mufi was in, he said, we're going to create this thing called the Waianae Economic, Development Pack. So it was some type of monies that were generated from the Waimanalo Gulch that was supposed to go to the
Come
west
back
side.
into the community.
And then say, okay, here, this is your benefit for having this dump inside your community.
Well, it's NIMBY, right? I mean, nobody wants a homeless encampment. Nobody wants a prison. Nobody wants a dump. Nobody wants the unpleasant stuff.
Oh, definitely
They just want the
not.
nice stuff, right?
Well, definitely not. And I think that what they came up with was some type of pack where you're able to get money for our coast. It's now money for summer school.
Yikes. Hey, what a day. Thank you, Andrea. And we'll stay in touch because we're going to need to reconvene as soon as we find out what's happening, if there's going to be or not going to be a special session. But for all of your energy and your input and your being with us for every single week of this whole session and then some, thank you.
Thank you very much.